Welcome to De Herberg here in De Bron in the Netherlands. We have a debate here from Teen Camp. The motion I'd like to propose is this house is against euthanasia. I have here opposing the motion Miss Becky Maiden, I think, and Miss Ruth Phillips, and proposing the motion here on the right is Mr. Sorry, what's your name? Oh, Tim Maiden. Mr. Tim Maiden and Mr. Daniel Morris. Give a round of applause. Right, thank you very much indeed. Okay, everybody knows the rules of the house, and so let's get on with the show.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen. Basically, the issue we're looking at today is whether we can put people down. That's the basic question we're looking at. Can we be treated like a dog? That's it. Sorry. I think we've got a bit more value than that actually as human beings. Anyway, on our team, me and the Right Honourable Daniel Morris here, and we believe that there isn't much difference between euthanasia and murder. And I think if you look in Exodus chapter 20, you will find in verse 13, "Thou shalt not kill." Now that's a big part of our argument tonight. Anyway, and it's also, if you look in Exodus 21 and verse 12, we'll read, "Anyone who strikes a man and kills him shall surely be put to death." So it's obviously quite a dangerous game, euthanasia. Okay. On our team, we're totally against any form of euthanasia. We should go against the course of nature. We shouldn't jump in and kill somebody before God actually does this. We believe God is in control of the universe. He controls when we're going to die.
Yeah.
Okay, if we look in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 18. Find it. This is Jesus talking. "I am the living one. I was dead, and behold, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death." So obviously God is in control of when we die. And I don't think that here on this earth, any doctor, no matter how qualified, is in any position to say when someone is going to die. To say he can say, "Oh, he's going to die, we'll just pull the plug out and give him an injection and then kill him off soon enough, save some money," I suppose. I don't believe any doctor's in that position. I believe only God can decide.
Yeah.
We also believe in miracles on this team. A man could be close to death, even dead, and still could be revived. Look at Lazarus. We believe we should let God decide when a man should die. We also believe that every method possible should be used to keep a person alive. Okay, God's given us a lot of modern machines these days to keep these people alive. Life support machines is one. Does any man have the authority to choose when we should use them and who we should use them on? I don't think so. Especially if this person is a non-Christian, just think what you're doing to this person. He's, if you're killing him, it's like condemning him to life in hell. It's eternity in hell. Can't be very good, surely.
Yeah.
Okay, finally I want to look at a verse in Ezekiel. A book I read very often, of course. Chapter 18 and verse 32. Here we are. "For I take no pleasure in the death of anyone, declares the sovereign Lord. Repent and live." Now this is the Lord talking. He says, "I don't take the pleasure in the death of anyone." Surely we should try and obey the Lord, eh? We should try and not take the death of anyone. Okay. Is there anything we can add to that? Okay, thank you.
very much, Mr. Maiden. Round of applause, please. Now, I know this is a very, very serious matter, a matter of life and death, in fact. But I would like you to voice your opinion by saying if you agree with something, hear, hear, and if you don't agree with something at all, say nay. Just say it right out loud. Let everybody know what you feel, okay? I'd like to move on now to Miss Ruth Phillips. Round of applause, please.
Thank you, Sir Alan, the opposers, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Rebecca Maiden and I here are, we are for euthanasia, and we have several illustrations to back up our idea. First of all, thanks. First of all, keeping people on life support machines costs a lot of money. A life support machine alone costs several £1,000s. Hundreds. Why didn't you say that before? I'm going to get shut down. Okay, hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yay. Yeah.
And people are dying in other countries because this money has been used to keep other people alive. So young children who are starving, people who haven't got legs aren't be able to get legs because they're using the life support machines to keep people alive. And we basically feel that it's a waste of money, really, because other lives that could be, that we are sure that would live, are dying because we're using money for other purposes. Also, when people are on life, I'll get it right in a minute, life support machines, everything's being done for that body. It's being breathed for, it's being fed, it's being run, and basically, if the life support machine wasn't there, that person would be dead. And 100 years ago, there wasn't any life support machines, and that person would have been dead. So we feel that, if they would have been dead anyways, what is the point of keeping them alive when it's scientifically impossible? We know it's scientifically impossible for people to to recover. Okay. Also, I have another example here of a woman who, contracting cancer through all of her body, was in so much pain that she was begging the doctors to ask her to let her die, because if they hadn't had the machinery, the medicine that they do now, she would have been dead. And they were clinging on to her life by their medicine. She was given so many drugs that she didn't know who she was anymore, and she didn't know who her family was. Her family were having to come to visit someone who didn't even recognise them anymore, and this was hurting the kids tremendously. Also, she was just going through so much pain that she wanted to die. And we feel that this woman there, she should have been allowed to die, because if she'd lived 20 years ago, she would have been dead. Okay? Also, we feel that the money could be used in other ways as well. The money could be used to help people who haven't got legs and who have got diseases that can be healed, say leukemia or so. And it costs a lot of money to keep these people alive. But we also feel that it is certainly to do with it's certainly something to do with the situation that you're in and the family and how the family feel as well. We don't think that it's something that can be decided alone. We have to take everything into consideration. Thank you. Sorry I went on a bit.
Thank you very much indeed, Miss Ruth Phillips. I'd now like to move the seconder for the opposing team, Mr. Daniel Morris.
Okay, she was talking about money being spent as if a human life was worth less than money.
Yeah.
I mean, God created us in His image. He sent His Son to die on the cross for us because He loves us so much. And if we're not worth money, I mean, Jesus is worth more than money. Then, I mean, if we're not worth money, then what are we worth? We're not worth anything. So no matter how much money it is, we're worth more than that. Jesus said if a man gains the world but loses his soul, he gains nothing.
Amen.
So you are worth more than all the money in the world. So no matter how much money they spend on that, you're still worth your life support machine. You're still worth it. Also, she was talking about 100 years ago, people would be dead because they didn't have life support machines. 100 years ago, if someone had a fatal disease, I don't know, TB or leprosy, they'd be dead as well. But now, with our scientific achievements, we are able to keep them alive, give them normal lives. Well, on a life support machine, they would not necessarily have a normal life, but provided they'd still be alive, they'd be able to live, and it's worth it. I mean, would you like it if you had an accident and someone decided you were dead? I mean, you were not worth living. They should be able to kill you. Also, she talked about a person who wanted to die because she was under so much pain and causing a family. If she wanted to die, that would be her choice to commit suicide. We're free to commit suicide if we want to. God, I mean, you're able to do it if you like. The Bible says you're not. It's wrong, but you're free to do it. And if she wanted to do it, they can't force her to stay alive. Anyway, and if you decide you want, if someone is in a bad condition, had an accident, he's on the life support machine for the rest of his life, and you decide he's not worth living, who is to decide at what stage he's not worth living? Should the doctor decide that? And if he decides at what stage, how would just because he's unproductive? Just think of the old people. They're unproductive. Should they be killed as well?
Yes.
Water, please.
Also, what is it that makes a person? I mean, if he's on a life support machine, does he still have a soul? His personality, his character, whatever. If he's completely dead, I mean, if only his organs are working, if his brain is dead, he's got no personality, no character, he's just organs working, then he could be considered dead. And then there's no life machine to be cut off anyway.
1 minute, please, Mr. Moore.
1 minute. Okay. But mostly they're not. You're in a position where someone else will decide whether you will live or not. And you have the right to live.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Wood. I'd now like to move on to the seconder of our opposing team. No, our proposing team. Miss Becky Maiden. Round of applause, please.
Thank you. I'd just like to say some more about being on the life support machine when you're brain dead. We know from scientifically, when you're brain dead, you can't recover. It's really impossible to recover, okay? Although all your other organs can be working, you can't survive with energy when you're brain dead. So, if you were alive 100 years ago and you were in a car crash or something and you a stagecoach crash and the doctor said you were brain dead, you would be dead anyways because the life support machine wasn't around then for you to recover with it. Well, you could recover. And you must think of the question, what is life anyway? When you're brain dead, you can't think, you know, you can't have any other communication with anybody else, or anything like that. So you've got to think, what is life? And shouldn't somebody who is actually on a life support machine and is brain dead, shouldn't they just be turned off? Because I mean they're not going to recover. That's it.
Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to have a short time open to the floor where you feel free to make the points which you wish to make, and the questions, if you'd like to ask any questions to the members of the floor here, please address them to Mr. Chairman, through me, and to the individual member. Thank you. Mr. Roses, first question.
No question, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a few remarks to make. According to me, when you're brain dead, you're dead. They don't keep you on a machine when you're brain dead, because they take you off anyway. So that's number one. That's not euthanasia, that's just dead. Number two, you were talking about money and the right of the individual to live, and that a life is worth more than money.
Yeah.
Now, my point is that money can be spent on other people who've got the same rights, but there is not enough money for everybody. Why don't you send the money to people who need it and who have a real chance?
Thank you very much, Mr. Roses. We have a comment from Mr. Tim Maiden on our right.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Roses, do you believe you are God? Do you have the right to decide who gets this money? Yeah? Do you have the right to decide who lives and who doesn't? Do you have the right to decide who has the most chance to live? Do you? Mr. Roses?
Yes,
can I have an answer, please?
Yes. I think, as a future medical doctor, I think the medical profession has got a right to decide who has got the best chance of surviving.
Thank you, Mr. Roses. Would you like to answer the question, do you think you are God?
Of course.
Do you think you are God? Are there any more questions from the floor? Yes, Mr. Mark Norrish.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to address it to everybody talking about brain dead. How do you know what it feels like to be brain dead? Responses cannot work, cannot function. Maybe they have total contact with God, maybe they can hear you, but you just don't know about it. That could be so. It has not been proven that somebody is brain dead.
I'd like to have a reply from that from Miss Ruth Phillips. Thank you very much.
I'd like to just say that if you're brain dead, how can you have responses and stimulus? Because that's where everything centres from your brain.
Yeah.
Order, please.
Okay, just forget it.
Thank you very much. I'd like to have another comment here from Mr. Daniel Morris on my right.
Okay. What is the point in living in the first place? I mean, if you're brain dead, you cannot do anything. You have no personality. You have no character. What makes you yourself is no longer there.
Hey.
Thank you very much. Please don't forget that you address all your answers to the chairman as well. Thank you. Yes, please, the lady with the purple scarf. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say that, not regarding the life support machines, but other methods of euthanasia, you say ending a life, but to me, life is being able to do what I please. To move around, to have my own free will, to make my own choices. If I was lying in hospital in bed, virtually paralysed with pain, and I know I'm a Christian, I know I'm going to heaven, then I'd want to go there. What is the point? I'm here on this earth full of suffering and more.
Thank you very much indeed. May I have a question from the back there? Yes, please.
Me.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make a comment. Jesus died to give us life. If you didn't think life was worth living. So if a person has the right to live, as long as God decides to take them away.
Here.
So obviously the life machine means, it's obviously got a reason. God has got a reason for everything, a purpose. And the life machine obviously means that this person is meant to be there, like that.
Thank you very much indeed. Comment from Mr. Morris on the right hand.
I agree with what you said, but the one just before that, when you said your life is doing what you feel like doing, think about the paralyzed man that came to Jesus through the roof. I mean, if he couldn't do what he wanted, he was paralyzed. If you're paralyzed, do you think you should still have the rights to live?
Yeah.
You should. He was healed.
Yeah.
Addressing the same question, surely as a Christian you're sacrificing your life to the Lord. You're not doing your own free will, are you? As a Christian. Surely you should allow God to choose when you're going to die and when you're not going to die, when you're going to be alive. Surely?
Thank you very much. A question from Mr. Nate, the white shirt. Thank you very much.
I think it's different in England because healthcare is
Excuse me,
free.
can you address the question?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's different in England because healthcare is free, but in the States, families can spend their whole life savings and lose their whole life savings and mortgage their house, lose their house, keeping alive someone who's never going to recover. And that's a waste.
Thank you very much indeed.
Nice.
Further comment from Mr. Roses. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I still want to comment on the brain dead subject.
They're all around me.
Like I said, when somebody is brain dead, he is dead. Okay, just keep it that way. We are not discussing when somebody is alive or dead. So when you're in a coma, and you kill somebody, it's euthanasia. When they're brain dead, it's not euthanasia anymore. It's just dead. So that point.
Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to have a comment from Miss Ruth Phillips.
Well, that is what we've been, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we've been arguing for. We're saying that if they're brain dead, they are dead. So what is the point of keeping them and wasting the money on the life support machines when it could be going to people that we know are alive?
What would they need?
Thank you very much. I'd like to have a comment from the lady in the blue shirt there. Please, can you rise and address the question to the chairman? Thank you.
Is the question, Mr. Chairman, is the question that we are discussing whether a person that is brain dead should be kept on the
Life support machine.
life support system, or is it anyone?
I'd like to pass the microphone to Mr. Daniel Morris. Thank you for that question.
Very good question. If, as we agree with him, if you're brain dead, you are dead, then you're dead, so there's no point keeping a dead body alive, is it? So that is not the discussion. The discussion is keeping someone alive who has the chance of living, who has still got this personality, still got a character, still is a human.
Thank you very much. I'd like to have a comment from Miss Becky Maiden on the left here. Thank you.
Mr. Daniel, we started off by telling you a story about this guy who was on the life support machine and was brain dead, and his friend was paying hundreds and hundreds of pounds, paying for him to be on this life support machine. And they were keeping him alive, even though he was brain dead, because his friend wanted to keep him alive. Now, do you think that's right?
I'm afraid that this is getting just a little bit off the subject. This is questions from the floor. We can answer these questions in our summing up. I believe there's a question from Mr. Craig in the corner there. Or you're just airing your armpit. Okay. Yes. Miss Ma'am. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'd still like to ask the question asked by Mr. Mark Norris. Who knows how it feels to be on a life machine?
Yeah.
Amen,
Thank you very
brother.
much. Are there any more questions? Yes. Mr. Chris.
Chairman, you know, how do people know when someone is brain dead? You know, they could be thinking a lot, but just not showing it. They could just not be able to talk, sing. They could be still thinking nothing. You know, how can they know for sure that someone is brain dead?
I'm afraid on these questions with brain dead, it's much a similar case to abortion, when the doctors decide before when things are alive and when things are dead. The doctors decide that, say, after 3 weeks, after being an egg being fertilized, it's not actually a human being. After 3 weeks it is. And doctors also decide, order please, doctors also decide when a person is dead and if that person is in fact dead, brain dead or dead. Thank you very much. Any more questions from the floor? Yes please, the lady in the red shirt.
Mr. Chairman, if you're on a life support machine, are you always brain dead or not?
I'm afraid that I'm not a doctor yet.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, as a Christian, I think you should see it as a miracle. If you believe in miracles, you should believe in it. So they can be raised, and Jesus, God might have decided that they should be alive, and He can heal them. So I don't think you should kill them just because the doctor decides.
Thank you very much indeed. Just a reply from Mr. Tim.
Well, I'd just like to say that I totally agree with the young lady over there. That's exactly what we're preaching here tonight.
Yes, please, Miss Conlon.
Chairman, if someone is emotionally dead, brain dead, and they can't see, hear, have any emotions, why put their parents through the agony of watching their child or just dead? If that person was dead, they could get over it. I mean, maybe not quickly, but they could actually get over it.
Question from Mark Norris there with a very interesting t-shirt.
Mr. Chairman, is the debate whether the person is brain dead or not, or is it whether to kill him with euthanasia? Whether euthanasia is relevant. Whether the person is brain dead or not is irrelevant to the subject.
Example.
Thank you very much. I shall repeat the motion. This House is against euthanasia. Would anybody like to supply a definition for euthanasia? Thank you very much. Mr. Henna Roses.
Euthanasia is killing somebody, right? Killing means complete death, physical and brain death. So bringing somebody from a state of being alive somewhere, like in their brains, I mean that's the part that counts. If they're alive in their brains and you make them die, make them brain dead, that's euthanasia. And there's two euthanasia, passive and active. Active euthanasia, you give them an injection or pull the plug. Passive, you don't give them treatment. People that are dying of cancer and you stop the radiation, that is also euthanasia.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, Mr. Mark Norris.
By that definition, euthanasia was the act of killing a person, but that doesn't say by medical means. You're saying that to murder somebody is okay. That's euthanasia, but that's okay.
I think we're actually talking about the medical situation.
When you stated the motion, you didn't say that. You said euthanasia.
I understood euthanasia to be the act of killing someone under medical treatment.
Question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to propose a situation whereby a believer who knows Christ, who has come to know eternal life, and he said to his wife, perhaps to his family, that if I should ever be involved in a car accident and I'm put on a support machine and my brain can no longer function, I'm as good as dead, and yet that machine is keeping me alive, I would prefer to be unplugged. How would your panel answer such a person?
Thank you very much. Can we have a reply from the left first?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, would you stand up as well? We have this situation, we have a Christian who's said he if he's in that situation, he wants someone to pull the plug. We're fighting for euthanasia. This person, if they are going to be, we're coming back to brain dead again here, you know, and being on a life support machine and being like a vegetable, basically, not being able to do anything, not being able to have a normal life, whether you're brain dead. To pull the plug could be like being paralysed and being in such extreme pain that you want to end your life. And if that person knows they're going to go to heaven, and their life, they know that their life isn't going to be worth living, if they... Oh, I'm getting on real here, am I? If they, oh dear. Let me cut this bit out.
I'd like a reply from the right-hand side as well. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sorry about Mrs. Phillips here, but she's... sorry, Miss Phillips. I think she's terribly mixed up, but never mind. I didn't see Dave make the mention of brain death at all in this example, but as an answer to the question, this Christian should, again, just like the young lady back there, leave this up to God's judgment when he should die. I believe that God gave us, well, gave these clever scientists and doctors the ability to make this fantastic equipment, life support machines. I think this is all God given. So I think that we should use it to the full. I don't think we have the right to choose who gets it, who doesn't, when we use it, when we don't. I don't think we have this authority.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we have to get on with the questions to the floor. Yes, please, the lady with the blue shirt there.
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, ladies, if you're
Ladies.
if you're if you're saying that it's going to your arguments are for
Order, please.
if your arguments are for keeping them on, then who is going to make the decision which way what's going to happen?
Thank you very much. I'd like to give that to Miss Becky Maiden. The question was, who has the responsibility to say, we'll turn it off now?
Is that right?
And whether it's turned off or left on, whose responsibility is it then?
I think if the person isn't up to making the decision for themselves, then it's definitely up to the family to make that decision. And if they're all Christians, to turn that issue to the Lord,
Thank you very much. We've got time for about 3 or 4 more questions. So I'd like to ask Helen there to say something.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, referring back to Dave's example, I would like to know if a Christian decides that he wants to have the machine turned off if he is in a car accident, is that suicide? And if so, is he going to go to heaven if switched off?
Thank you very much. I'd like to give that question to Mr. Tim Maiden, to Mr. Daniel Morris.
Yeah, we come to the question of who's right, who has the right to say, I want to turn off the machine. If the person chooses that they don't want to live, they would rather die. It's the same as suicide. I mean, if you turn the machine off, you're killing yourself. So it's suicide. Also, but I think people are a bit confused about brain dead. Brain dead means you're dead. You can't decide. There's no decisions in your brain. You're dead.
May I answer this question also?
Thank you. A comment from Dave Armstrong there.
I think we must ask the question.
Please, can you address the question through that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. can also ask the question then to Jesus. Did the soldiers kill Jesus, or did Jesus, as the Son of God, lay down his life? If he laid down his life, are you saying this is suicide?
Nay.
Thank you very much. A comment from the back there, yes.
As Mr. Maker said, the machines that are given by God to help people stay alive. But therefore, the person making the decision to switch off the machines, could they not be just an instrument of God? Could they not be just God through them deciding, just fulfilling his purpose for their person? He knows when they're going to die. The person switching off the machine is just merely an instrument for causing the death of this person.
A comment from Hannah Roses. Thank you.
I think we've been discussing, Chairman Layson, we've been discussing the wrong questions. I'm going to give another example. An old lady, dying of cancer, decides she doesn't want any treatment anymore to prolong her life. She's suffering of tremendous pain. The doctor that doesn't give her a treatment is committing euthanasia. Is this wrong?
Thank you very much. Any comment from the floor? From you? I'm afraid they haven't. Yes, please.
There are some kids, or some people who are mentally disabled and cannot think for themselves at all. So are you saying that they should be killed because they couldn't think for themselves?
And the parents will suffer.
And their parents suffer as well?
They do.
Are they on a life support machine?
I know, but they can't think for themselves.
Suffering.
The same as
the parents are suffering.
But I think we are considering a life support machine, aren't we? I'm pulling the plug.
I know what she's saying about
Please,
suffering.
we have all the questions addressed through the chairman. Thank you. We've got only time for about 2 more questions. First, we'll have a comment from Ms. Ruth Hurd.
I don't think that the lady in the back there was that comparing a mentally handicapped child to somebody who's on a life support machine is the same. A mentally handicapped, my sister is mentally handicapped. She can't make many of her decisions herself. She can't decide what clothes to wear alone. She can't decide what bus to catch alone. She doesn't know how much money to catch alone. So I don't sorry, how much money she needs to take to go and buy a chocolate bar in the shop. And I don't think that is, but she's living, she's alive, she's a person, she's got a character. And all mentally handicapped children, no matter how retarded, have got a character, have got a personality.
Thank you very much. Just a question from the comment from Mars.
That's exactly what we're saying. We're saying that people who we're trying to keep alive also have character, personalities, and their own character.
You just said before you didn't. If you're brain dead,
Before we're not talking about brain dead.
Any more questions from the floor? We've got time for 2 more. Thank you very much, Mark.
So far, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, so far we've been discussing life support machines. But is the question of euthanasia also to do with injections to kill somebody? Could we please have an example of this to discuss?
Yeah.
You got an example? An example from Tim Maiden.
Well, it's just a very simple example. If somebody is in hospital in severe pain, unconscious maybe, he's not brain dead. Sorry, he's conscious. And he's going through severe pain and he just wants to be put down. He just wants to be given an injection to kill him.
Is that a good enough example?
Yes, we have an answer from there.
yes. Well, this, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen, this goes back to what we were saying at the beginning with the lady who was dying of cancer and who was in severe pain and knew that if she hadn't been alive in this age that she would have died. she knew she was going to die in 2 days. Couldn't she? We're saying. Wait a minute, I forgot what I was saying.
Thank you very much. Question from the lady in the blue shirt, I believe. No? Airing her armpit. Anybody else? One more question. No more questions? Okay, great. We'll just take a 5-minute break before we go into the summings up. So that leaves about 15 minutes until the end of the show. Thank you very much. Okay, let's carry on. The summing up by Miss Ruth Phillips. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, the opposers, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to sum up this evening with a few ideas that we have. We are fighting for euthanasia, for people that are dead and people that are in pain need to be released. For starters, we've concentrated a lot on life support machines, machinery, man-made machinery. We have to admit that in this world there is sin and there are things that God doesn't like, and He doesn't dramatically come down and set them ablaze with lightning. And we have to be able to tell what's wrong and what's right. When we have a life support machine, we are measuring the brain activity. That's all we're doing. And if we do anything else, we're interfering with nature's course, with nature's plan. We're interfering at the limits with even God's plan, we can be interfering. And we have to be very careful to know if we are doing the right thing. Okay? Also, going back to machinery, a lot of things these days, our bodies are being manipulated for things. A life support machine does everything for you. It gives you all your organs back that don't work. Things like transplants. And we are being manipulated. Our bodies can be manipulated to work. When maybe God's plan for us isn't for us to look, it isn't for them to work. But that isn't always the case. I think that's mainly what our main points are to finish up with. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Ruth Phillips. I'd like to move on now to the final summing up by Mr. Daniel Morris, the man who proposed this motion. This House is against euthanasia. A round of applause, please.
She talked about nature's plan. What is nature's plan? Nature does not have a plan. And you're talking about evolution. There's no plan in evolution. There's no such thing as nature's plan. We're alive here. And who can say what God's plan is for us? Does God want us to die? God takes no pleasure in the death of anyone. Quoted from Ezekiel. So it is our responsibility to keep them alive. We've got no right to allow someone to be killed. To kill someone. Also, brain dead. We're not talking about brain dead. Brain dead, the brain is cut off from the rest of the body. They're dead. And taking off a life support system is not euthanasia. We're not talking about that. We're talking about when someone who's been in an accident, say they're in a coma, maybe they're partially paralyzed, totally paralyzed, but still they should be put in a life support system. They should be kept alive. There's still hope that they might live. We cannot say that they're bound to die. There are such things as miracles. If they weren't, we have no right to say. Who has the right to say he should die and he should not die? Also, about expenses, as you were saying, it is expensive to keep someone alive.
1 minute, please.
And no one is required to give money. You cannot say you have to give money. His family has to give money to keep him alive. It's up to them if they are willing to keep him alive. The government can pay, and the family can pay. But if they're brain dead, and like as was quoted earlier, an example of brain dead and a person keeping them alive for nothing, It's his money. If he wants to keep him alive, it's up to him. But it is not his right to say you should be killed.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Morris. That's the end of our formal debating. I'm sure it'll carry on for a little bit longer. I'd like to thank a few people for a very pleasant evening and a very impressive debating display. I'd like to thank Mr. Dave Armstrong for recording it all on the camera. Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to thank Mrs. Matilda Armstrong for making him a man capable of doing that. I'd like to thank all of you people that have come along and joined in very cleverly and finally, I'd like to thank all the people that have taken the last hour and a half and put all their time into making this very intelligent display of intelligence. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the proposers to leave through the back door while we take our vote at this stage. Bye.
Right.
No peeking.
Close the door.
Well, it has been a very impressive display of debating, and I'm sure we've got lots of varied opinions. See if I can find a pen. Right, I'd like to see the hands of all those for the motion.
Are we allowed to stay neutral?
I shall call all those who'd like to abstain. If you'd like to stay neutral, then put your hand up then.
Which way is the motion going? It's Tim and Daniel.
The motion is this House is against euthanasia. The proposers were Mr. Morris and Mr. Maiden. If you agree that the House is against euthanasia, then you should vote for them. If not, then vote for these guys. Basically, they don't want to kill them, they do. Okay? All those in favour? In favour of the motion.
No, it's against. It's against killing.
It's against killing.
Against.
All those in favour of Mr. Morris and Mr. Maiden. Just keep your hands up for a minute.
Peer pressure, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Definitely. They haven't got a brain for themselves. Kill them. Brain dead. Brain dead.
Pull the plug.
Okay. All those against.
Yeah. Now you can see who the people are.
All those against. Come on, let's have a positive vote here.
Come on.
I'm for it.
I have all those for again.
Yeah, put your hand up.
Everybody for the motion, the ones who voted last time. Hope you're not putting your hands up twice, because that's not allowed.
Is this for killing? The boys.
No, this is for keeping them alive.
And all those abstaining, please. Neutral vote.
You can, but you weren't in here.
Yeah, well, I thought of it.
Neutral.
No, you weren't here.
Thank you very much.
-1.
Can somebody go and call them, please?
They were listening
I
at
think they were listening.
There's been speaking.
Well, this is the final moment of truth. I'm sure everybody's on the edges of their chairs and on their toes and everything else they have. Here we have 16 votes for the motion. 10 votes against the motion. And 5 people who are brain dead. Thank you very much. I'd like to pronounce the opposers the winners. Thank you very much. The winners are here on my left. Let's have a round of applause for the chairman. I'd like to confess it's been a very exciting evening and I've been a bit brain dead myself. I'd like to pronounce the people on the right the winners. 16 for the motion, 10 against, and 5 abstaining. I'd like to thank you. It's been a very good debate. I've enjoyed myself thoroughly. I believe there's a party on next door over at the bonfire. It's not on yet. Well, we just have to wait. Okay then. Thanks a lot. Have a nice night.